Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
That's Blade. What's up, and welcome to the very first episode of Retrospectacle. And it's a play on words. All right, so Retrospectacle is a series that I've created to give you guys a retrospective on movies, TV shows, and video games from the 90s and early 2000s to late 2000s. I don't mind. And I do that because the 90s and the 2000s are a very important decades to me, and they're the best. We're not going to argue about that. But the very first episode is going to be on no one other than Blade, one of the very best Marvel heroes or anti-heroes, depending on what you want to call it. And Blade actually started the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Argue with your mama. Let's get right into it. Blade is a 1998 American superhero film directed by Stephen Norrington and written by David S. Goyer, based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name, Blade. Blade is a half mortal, half human, or half immortal, which is half vampire, out to avenge the death of his mother, who he doesn't actually know was actually turned into a vampire, but he will find out later, played by the amazing Sanaa Lathan, which Sanaa Lathan played in Love and Basketball, which is a great movie, and she also played the love interest of Ty Diggs in the Best Man series, which is also a great series. The plot point of Blade is kind of rocky due to the fact that it doesn't follow all the way through, but here we go. Blade is out to rid the world of vampires, which is a modern day advanced race of vampires who are also in search of his blood type, which they want to use to summon an evil god who plays a key role in their plan to execute the human race and come out of the shadows. With that being said, by the end of this movie, it becomes the hunter being hunted. And the plot is awesome. I don't question it at all. I just question the execution of it. And you'll see why I say that by the end of the movie. Trust me, this doesn't deter the awesomeness of the movie at all. So let's get into the story. Blade starts off with his mom being rushed through hospital doors from an apparent vampire bite, all while at the same time giving birth to Blade. Cut to the next scene, and we have this car weaving in and out of traffic headed to this vampire infested nightclub, and the guy trying to get lucky with this chick who turns out to be that of a vampire. Once they make it to the club, things get a lot weirder for this young man due to the ceiling raining down and drenching everyone that occupies the club in blood. This is when he figures out we are no longer in Kansas anymore. All right, that joke sounded better in my head, so I'm gonna leave it in. But this leads us into the most iconic introduction of a character of all time, in my opinion, and it is the right opinion. Let's get into it. After his formal introduction, we are given the very first fight scene, which is one of the most awesome fight scenes of the Blade series of all time. He ransacks through the whole club of vampires, and after the bloodshed, we are introduced to Blade's new punching bag for a good portion of the movie, Quinn, who is played by Donald Logue from Grounded for Life, which is a pretty good show, in my opinion. Used to watch it growing up. So Quinn actually turns out to be the right-hand man of the big bad of the movie, Deacon Frost, who we don't formally meet until the second act of the film, so we will get to him later. After a brief conversation with Quinn, Blade is interrupted by the local police, but before leaving, he sets Quinn on fire. After being burnt to a crisp, the police rush Quinn to the hospital, and during this time, we are introduced to Dr. Karen Jensen, played by, I don't want to butcher this, in Boucher Wright, While examining the toasted body of what they are unaware of is a vampire, Karen is assisted by a nurse, and by the dialogue seems to be an ex-boyfriend of some sort. So I guess Quinn is either annoyed by this conversation and the bickering, or doesn't like the fact that the guy is cutting into his chest, because he decides to wake up and go straight for the guy's neck. Literally, he goes for his neck. Quinn then targets Karen as she bursts into the hall, successfully grabbing and biting her as Blade smoothly walks into the scene like the badass he is. Blade intervenes, and after busting up Quinn for the second time, told you he's his punching bag, Blade is targeted by the police, where we get the second best quote of the movie, hands down.
Freeze! Motherfucker, are you out of your damn mind?
While Blade is distracted, Quinn manages to safely get away by jumping through a window, of course. While leaving the scene, Blade stumbles across the body of just bitten Karen. I guess she reminds him of his mother, because at the time he has this brief flashback to when she was in the hospital. Blade then does the only logical thing to save Karen, throws her out of a window. Fast forward, Blade arrives to his bat cave where we meet the trusty sidekick Abraham Whistler, played by Chris Christopherson, who's a well-known singer in the 80s. All right, so the movie doesn't actually explain why or how Whistler became a vampire hunter, or how he met Blade. I think it does in some increments, but it doesn't give you the exact lore. So here we go. Basically, Whistler was a normal guy who lived a normal life. He had 2 daughters and a wife. So one day there was this drifter who just showed up to his house one day looking for food and maybe a phone or something like that. I'm not sure totally what happened, but during this time, the drifter actually turned out to be a vampire, and a sadistic one at that. So he actually took advantage of the situation and he killed his family. But before killing Whistler's family, he actually, I think, raped them. Take away the G, and you'll get what I'm saying. And he tortured Whistler, and he wanted him to choose who died first. But being a strong guy he is, Whistler refused to do that, and the vampire just killed his family. And before he can actually kill Whistler, dawn hit and the sun rose, so he had to get out of there. He skedaddled out of there. And yeah, so this is basically why Whistler has chosen the life of a vampire slayer, and he's after every vampire that gets in his way. I'm not sure if he actually met that specific vampire that actually killed his family. That is so screwed up, by the way. It's depressing. But let's continue the story. So Blade leaves Karen with Whistler to tend to her wounds, and I guess to make sure she doesn't turn, because she was bitten. So I'm not sure if she's a vampire in this movie or not. While Blade is out fighting crime, Whistler explains the underground world of vampires to Karen. He also explains that vampires are like the mob, and they own the police force due to having familiars. Now, familiars are a interesting bunch in this film, due to the fact that familiars are human beings that have devoted themselves to the vampire's nation and pledged themselves to a house or specific vampire leader. Familiars had perks, one of which, if they proved themselves worthy, their vampire lord would turn them to a vampire, and they would be permitted into their inner circle, or a part of their family, I guess. At this point in the movie, Blade is finally face to face with the big bad, or main boss, Deacon Frost.
How you doing, Chief? Easy. Wouldn't want our little friend here to wind up on the back of a milk carton now, would we?
Deacon Frost was a highly ambitious vampire who aimed to control the world. Frost believed vampires to be the apex predator, and their kind should not walk among or masquerade as a human, which vampires did in his timeline for millennia. Being a second-class vampire to the Council of Purebloods, Deacon Frost set out to rule all vampires and become a god, which leads us to the actual plot of the movie. So Frost as a villain in the movie was actually a pretty good character in my opinion. It's basically about his goal to become a god due to the fact that he is being shamed by the Council of Purebreds because he's not a pure vampire. So I'm guessing they were born vampires. He wasn't born one. He was actually turned into one a long time ago, and they look down upon him because of that fact. And his role is to become the god and take all the vampires out of the shadow. So he wants to rule all vampires, and he wants to enslave humans, which is a scary thing to think about. Nightmare fuel. Yep. After this face-to-face, Blade returns to the hideout where he rests and recoups his energy by injecting a special serum that suppresses his urge to drink blood. Fast forward, Blade takes Karen on a ride-along to find answers about Frost's plan. During this time, we meet one of the most disgusting, vile creatures of the film, Pearl the Fat Vampire.
What is that?
That biscuit boy is a UV lamp. We're gonna play a little game of 20 questions. Depending on how you answer, you may walk out of here with a tan. What's that?
Oh, it's nothing. It's routine research. Actually, it's a video game.
Also, during this time, we are also introduced to a familiar, Officer Kruger, I think he is. He's one of those guys who wants to be a vampire so bad that he does anything to prove his worth to those vampires and his lord to try to become one. So we finally reached the climax of the film at this point, and this is where Blade becomes the hunted, because I guess Deacon Frost actually finds out about Blade's blood type and that it is a key part of his mission to become a god. So Deacon Frost finds and attacks Blade's hideout. He infects Whistler and turns him into a vampire actually, and he abducts Karen. When Blade returns, there's an emotional scene where he helps Whistler commit suicide because he's trying to avoid becoming the thing that he hates most, a vampire. So after this, when Blade attempts to rescue Karen from Frost's penthouse, he is shocked to find his mom still alive, who reveals that she came back the night she was attacked and was brought in by Frost, who appears and reveals himself as the vampire who bit her. Blade is then subdued and taken to the Temple of Eternal Night, where Frost plans to perform the summoning ritual for La Magra. Karen is thrown into a pit to be devoured by Webb, which turns out to be her ex-boyfriend or the nurse, Curtis Webb, from the scene where Quinn bites him. And he was transformed into a decomposing zombie-like creature, so I'm not sure if he's a vampire or not. Maybe? So Karen is able to fend off and injure Webb and escape. She then finds Blade, who is drained of his blood, and Karen actually allows him to drink from her, enabling him to recover. Frost completes the ritual and obtains the power of La Magra. So while Deacon Frost is actually finishing up the ritual, which consists of him, I guess, extracting the energy from all of the Council of Purebloods, who look down upon him, might I add, Blade is in his second form right now, and he's destroying Deacon Frost's henchmen in this awesome fight scene. Blade confronts Frost after killing all of his minions, including his mother, and he finally kills my boy Quinn. So with the ritual being complete, Blade actually finds Deacon Frost too powerful to beat hand-to-hand combat. So he does a smart thing. He actually injects him with all the vials he have of EDTA, and the overdose causes his body to inflate and explode, finally killing him. Now, this wasn't the best ending of a boss fight, but I'll accept it because of the way he did it, and it was super cool.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
So during the end of the movie, Karen offers to help Blade cure himself, and instead he asks her to create an improved version of the serum so he can continue his crusade against vampires. In a brief epilogue, Blade confronts a vampire in Moscow, and this vampire, he actually confronted him early in the movie, but it really wasn't that important. I guess it's going to play a role in the second film, which we'll find out about. Now, I think Karen was a great part of Blade. I don't think they utilized her anymore outside of the first Blade movie, which is a shame to me, if you ask me. Due to the fact that she wasn't just a doctor, she was actually able to make the serum for Blade and make it better. And they explained that pretty much in the middle of the movie. I really didn't get to that part. I wish I could have, but yeah, Karen was a pretty good part of the movie. But besides that, thanks for watching the very first episode. Blade is an awesome movie. I'm going to actually get to the full series, even Trinity, which they say is I think the worst. I really didn't actually pay attention to that movie when it first came out, so I actually get to watch it again, do a deep dive of it, and give you guys another great video. I will be dropping these videos every week. They take a lot of time, so I'm currently editing this one now. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.